YouTube. My name is Tundi. Um, Basically, I'm going to talk about my journey with stuttering and how stuttering has affected my life and how I've figured out some ways to deal with it um, and my attempts to overcome it. I want to let everyone out there know that you're not alone. There are so many of us struggling from this impediment, struggling from this issue, and there's so many things that we can do to help change it. If we continue to be afraid and to continue believing in the belief that we can't speak, it's always going to hold us back. And basically, for me, is I wasn't born a stutterer. I started stuttering when I was about, I believe, 14 or 15 years old. And basically, the reason why I started stuttering and how it all came to pass is basically when I started living with one of my older brothers, and who of course comes from my mother's first marriage. He's many years older than me. I think about 18 years older than me. Um, he was a very, how can I say this? He was his ability to raise children was very he had a very not violent but very intimidating approach to raising children. So his way of raising teenagers and raising children was always, either spanking or yelling at you or intimidating you to the point where you felt like he was going to hit you. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of mentality. When you grew up with that type of person, and not only that, but he was also a very sensitive man. So any word that you would tell him, he would just be lash out at you, and just any small word, even if it was a compliment, because he was hypersensitive. I don't know, maybe he had to have struggled with maybe a personal issue that he hadn't dealt with in the past, but he had this issue and he was very hypersensitive. So when I had to speak to him, I always had to choose my words carefully. And by doing that, by always having to struggle to choose my words carefully, it turned me into someone who stutters. See, it had an effect so spectacular that I started stuttering, and as the years went by, it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So by the time I was 22 years old, I was 20 years old, and in college, it was catastrophic. By the time I was 21 years old, there were days where I just locked myself away from everyone else because I felt like I couldn't say a single sentence without stuttering. It got to that point. I would just alienate myself from friends, alienate myself from family, and just do my own thing. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I didn't want to have to deal with anyone because I felt like I was inadequate. I had feelings of inadequacy. I didn't like myself. I didn't like to speak to anyone. I didn't like to talk, and it was just so painful some days. And for those of you out there who believe in God, all I want to say is that it's important to pray. It's important to pray. I still struggle with this stuttering issue, especially when I get nervous. Don't be fooled by the fluency right now. Of course, when I'm by myself, of course, there's no problem. And also when I'm with others, it's not as big of an issue. My stuttering in itself, it's not as bad as what some other people go through, but it's still an issue that prevents me, or that has prevented me in the past from chasing my dreams or doing certain things. And all I want to say that it's important to just pray. Just if you believe in God, just pray and just keep on praying. Just read His Word, because that's what I did. I read His Word. I kept on believing, and as cliche as this might sound, take your time. What I'm saying? Just go ahead and just pronounce word by word, and just keep practicing every day. Every day, if you can sit down and practice day by day, you keep on practicing obsessively, because at the end of the day, they say that there's no cure for this so-called impediment. But it's not really an impediment, because the reason why there's no cure It's because there's no physiological problem with the brain of someone who stutters. There's no known physiological problem. So okay, so doctors and neurologists have examined the brain, they've examined the neurons, they've examined all the synapses, in the head or whatever. They've seen your heart rate and everything, and they've noticed that there was nothing physically wrong with someone who stutters. So what does that mean? It means that it's all in the mind. When you believe in something, it's manifested. So the key now is to figure out a way to relinquish yourself from that mindset, to relinquish yourself from the fear and anxiety, because at the root of every stutterer's stuttering is anxiety and fear. Anxiety because what? Anxiety because you're afraid that you're going to stumble on the word that you stumbled on last time, and fear because you're afraid that your listener will react in a either condescending or disrespectful way towards you. So I don't have a lot of time, but I just want to send this video out there that you guys are not alone. Many people out there, I don't know how many million, but there are millions out there who struggle with this impediment. And if you have a dream, because I've spent so many times questioning myself, should I continue pursuing my dream? If I have trouble speaking, should I continue believing that I'm a good person, I'm a great person, that greatness lies in me, and that I too deserve the same level of opportunities as someone who has fluency, who doesn't have to struggle with stuttering? And those are certain questions that, with a lot of prayer, I was able to answer those questions for myself. And those of you who may not have any type of belief system or don't believe in higher power, I just want to say that you have to begin believing in yourselves. And when you begin to believe in yourself, you will notice that your life will change. You will notice that things will happen. So those of you who are going through therapy, good for you. But those of you who can't afford the therapy, I don't want you guys to think that therapy is the answer all. Therapy, in my opinion, doesn't really do much, because at the end of the day, it's the anxiety. That's what I've come to learn as a fellow stutterer myself, is anxiety I feel when I'm when I'm afraid of something, when I'm in a situation where I have trouble speaking, is because I'm afraid of something. So basically, I just want to send out a message out there that for all those of you who are still struggling with this issue, to just keep believing and not accept it. You cannot accept it. Okay. There are many people. Sometimes this issue makes you feel like, okay, I'm never gonna overcome it. I'm always gonna be like this. So basically, my advice to you would just be to not accept it, and just to keep on hoping, to keep on trying. If you have to stand in front of a mirror and say a sentence again and again and again, stand in front of that mirror and say that sentence again, and keep believing that you can achieve this, because you're not alone. There are people out there who are suffering more than you, and you guys have greatness in you. Every human being in this world has something special about them. We are not ordinary people. So that's my message out to you guys today, and I hope that you can help inspire many people out there. All right, guys, have a good one.